What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome to Purple and Gold Bars. I'm your host, Supreme. Today I got first impressions of each team in the NFC North, as well as NFC North standings and record predictions. The following is a re-upload from a section of a video that I did last week. I know a lot's changed after week 1, but my feelings are still pretty much the same. Let's get into it. Let's take a look at my predictions. I got the Lions going 12-5, which isn't a hot take. They have the most complete team in the division. I got the Packers finishing 9-8. To me, they're a season or two behind where the Vikings are when it comes to where they are on the path to winning a Super Bowl. With the third best roster in the division, I'm pretty sure they are still in the thick of growing pains, which are going to cost them a lot more games this year than people expect. I got the Vikings at the same 9-8, but the Packers take second with a better divisional record. Our roster is the second most complete team in the division. The key to this year is that the Vikings need to make huge strides in team development and have less growing pains, so hopefully next year, that's all behind them and they can be where the Lions were last year. Lastly, I got the Bears finishing 5-12, which in my opinion is going to be much closer to reality when it's all said and done. I don't know what Bears fans and deluded commentators like Nick Wright are thinking when they assess the Bears. They are not capable of taking off the rose-tinted glasses. The Bears are just starting on their journey to a Super Bowl, and their young, talented quarterback has yet to play a single game with the team. They have lots of hurdles to overcome, growing pains to endure, and lessons to learn before they get to where the Packers and Vikings are. In my time watching the Vikings, I saw Zimmer's Purple Rain defense emerge, and the team was still a year or two from their peak. I was blinded by the potential and disregarded everything else. I was humbled quickly by growing pains and tough lessons learned that season. I don't think idiots like Nick Wright or fans are accounting for growing pains and losses that come with it. I didn't have huge hopes after the 2016 season where a lot of people thought we were going to turn the corner. Then when Kirk came, it was much of the same and we couldn't quite pull it off. Then KOC came and we overachieved, and I thought to myself, we might be able to avoid all the landmines on the way to the Super Bowl. Then the Giants humbled us. I remember Matt Khalil in some of the worst O-lines we've had. I remember when we didn't have top-tier receivers, tight ends, or running backs. I think Bears fans are going to be humbled exactly the same way this year. And as for the Vikings, this year doesn't feel like that. For the first time, we don't have a decent team that we delude ourselves into thinking they're better than they are. As a whole, our roster, despite some injuries, is pretty damn good. That's why I think Sam Darnold is going to have a great year, like when Jake Plummer joined a stacked Broncos team and made it to the AFC Championship game before losing to the eventual Super Bowl winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's most exciting to me is that everything learned this year by the offense should transition seamlessly when J.J. McCarthy takes over next year. Let's change gears and move on to my first impressions of the Packers, Lions, and Bears. Let's start with the Packers. I strongly believe they have the third best roster in the division. They have too many areas that are in need of massive upgrades that rookies or journeyman free agents can't fill. Last year, with their linebackers ranked 31st and their safeties ranked 24th in the league, they struggled getting to the quarterback. Last year, Tommy DeVito and the Giants stole a game from them, which is evidence of growing pains that they will continue to suffer from. It's no secret, Jordan Love had some highs last season, but also had some devastating lows. At times, I couldn't help but think, am I watching a backup masquerading as a starting quarterback out there? That's just more evidence of growing pains that they are going to endure this year in multiple areas of the team. We're going to see them lose games that they should have won and win games that they should have lost, which are telltale signs that there are many lessons and growing pains left to endure. The areas I'm going to be paying attention this year is Jordan Love's play and how their pass rush is developing. That's why I have them winning 9 games. Let's move on to the Bears. I'm sorry, but the hype behind the Bears has done nothing to convince me that they are who they say they are. Last year, their pass rush was last in pass rush grade. Their O-line finished 28th overall, on top of many areas where they are still very raw as a team. I'm sold on the talent and potential the Bears and Caleb Williams possess, but it's not enough for me to believe they are going to have a record-setting season and push for a Super Bowl like delusional shill Nick Wright believes. Despite minor improvements to their O-line, Caleb Williams is going to be out there running for his life. Coming out of college, his biggest critique was ball security. Paired with a mediocre to bad O-line, and you have a recipe for disaster. Do you guys remember David Carr? There's one more critique that has followed Caleb since losing to Washington and crying in the stands with his mom. I don't think there is much to it, to be honest, but I will say we haven't seen a meltdown like Ryan Leaf in a long time. Could this be a glaring red flag that everyone is ignoring, like they did with Leaf and his decision to go to Las Vegas? I understand getting emotional after a heartbreaking loss. I remember lots of players tearing up and sobbing after a game on the broadcast. What I don't remember is any of them doing the ugly girl crying thing like Caleb was doing after that game. So maybe there is something to it, or most likely, it will be something to playfully poke fun of him for throughout his career. This brings me to the biggest reason why I think the Chicago Bears are going to struggle this season. The biggest obstacle they face that no one is talking about is that they are stuck with a team that was built with in-game and roster strategies to fit a run-first quarterback. I'm sure in the offseason they did what they could to align those strategies to fit Caleb Williams, a throw-first quarterback. It's not like Caleb Williams is the third coming of Michael Vick. If he was, then maybe you'd have something. The roster fit alone will cause a lot of issues to begin with. Throw in growing pains, and I think those two factors will cost them way too many games this season. To me, it seems like they are threading numerous needles in hopes to dodge every obstacle on the way to the playoffs. Everything is new on that team. New philosophies, coaches, new players. It's a lot for a team, and it's way too much to expect from a team in this situation. That doesn't sound like the type of situation that warrants all the hype. Do you? Nick Wright calls Caleb Mahomes 2.0. The difference between the two is that Pat sat behind Alex Smith on a consistent playoff team, a much different situation than Caleb is in. I think he needs to take inspiration from another Chicago legend, Michael Jordan. Is Williams a born leader that can endure being drafted by a bad lottery team and lead them to greatness? Wouldn't that be something? That brings me to the Lions. Last year, to me, the Lions were a team that had a 90+ rating in almost every spot on their team, with a couple 79s in areas that scare the hell out of me: receiver and corner. On paper, I thought they were Super Bowl bound, but I couldn't get over the fact that their coaches and players had zero championship pedigree. The lack of experience getting to and winning the Super Bowl is too much to ignore when analyzing the Lions. There is so much gain from enduring the adversity of winning it all, and the Lions are in uncharted territory. It's the reason that prevented them from making it to the Super Bowl and losing games like in Week 7 versus the Ravens, Week 12 versus the Packers, Week 14 versus the Bears, and Week 17 versus Dallas. The Lions have built a team that, barring season-ending injuries to key players, they are almost guaranteed to make the playoffs. That's why I'm terrified that St. Brown or some of their secondary go down with massive injuries, because it will severely hinder their chances. If injuries don't get them, then their ability to win games in the playoffs are what has me worried. Last year's games versus the Ravens and Cowboys are excellent examples of playoff-like games that they need to win going forward. They also can't have losses to teams like the Bears or Packers, where everyone has picked them to win. To me, those losses are evidence they still have a long way to go to acquire championship pedigree. With that being said, I don't think this year is going to go like last year. The lessons and experiences from last year have contributed to solidifying their pedigree, so I think their true test comes in playoff-like games this year, and I will be watching to see if they can win those types of games this season. That will tell me if they are ready to win a Super Bowl. Well, there you have it. What do you think of my NFC North prediction? Are you opening up to the possibility that the Vikings might be better than you had initially thought? Let me know in the comments what you think about my first impressions of each NFC North team. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss more NFL and Vikings videos like this one. Until next time, Skol Vikings!